Eliminating DEI is another one of President Trump's promises. For more on this and the start of the second Trump administration, we want to welcome back familiar face here at the desk, Democratic Congressman Glenn Ivey from Maryland. It's been a whirlwind week, to say the least. I want to start with an issue that I know you've been paying particular attention to, and that is what happened almost immediately after the inauguration. That was the pardoning of the J6 people who have been convicted and jailed for crimes that were committed inside the United States Capitol. On a gut level, as somebody who was inside the Capitol that day, your reaction to this, what does it mean?
Well, I wasn't there, but I mean, it was a sucker punch. Really.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was astonishing that he would pardon or commute all 1,500, even the ones who were beating cops, hitting them with stun guns, spraying bear spray in their faces and the like. So, pardoning all of them was a real shock, and then comparing them to the Israelis being held hostage by Hamas was another surprise.
Was it the totality of the pardons that you Democrats wanted to see case by case go through, find out exactly what these individuals did, what they were charged with, what they were convicted of? Because that's what J.D. Vance said originally.
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that they didn't look at who had done what. They just pardoned everybody. So you had people that had multiple convictions. In other words, they're career criminals who got pardoned. You had people who made direct attacks on police officers. They got pardoned. You know, Terrio and some of the other real ringleaders got pardoned. So it was really, they didn't pay, it was a meat cleaver approach to the whole thing, and it was damaging, I think, to democracy.
There were some very boisterous comments by some of these folks as they left jail, you know, the D.C. jail. You were a former U.S. attorney. You were a former state's attorney for Maryland. Is there a proviso of granting a pardon and receiving a pardon that there has to be some admission of guilt or apology for what people have done? Well,
normally, yeah, you have people that you want the acceptance of responsibility, but in this instance, they are all already had because they'd pled guilty or been convicted at jury trials. But it's some sort of, you know, acknowledgement, I did something wrong, I'm not going to do it again, would be what you'd want. But you had some of these guys go out and say, I'm going to go buy some guns sort of approach. So the concern about potential lawlessness in our neighborhoods is there for sure.
Well, let's move on. One of the things that's happened in the last just couple of 72 hours, President Trump on Friday announced that he was letting go of the inspector generals across the federal government. What does that mean? Does it in any way have any control by Congress right now if these are inspector generals who are supposed to report to you about what's going on in these agencies and departments?
Yeah, I mean, the IGs are, the way the law is set up, they're supposed to get at least 30 days notice before they're, you know, terminated. So that it's already illegal on that front. But the overall goal, this was set up after Watergate to address waste, fraud, and abuse and try and find ways to fight it and attack it internally. So it goes counter to the Doge thing that he launched right there. And it's a fox guarding the henhouse situation now. It sort of suggests that he doesn't want to be held accountable. He doesn't want anybody looking over his shoulder as he makes these changes across the federal government.
The Doge initiative, the Department of Government Efficiency, and also, you know, the effort on Schedule F as far as holding on to civil service employees. This is something that has gotten a lot of attention. In theory, a lot of people say maybe the federal government has gotten too big, but what would the impact regionally be on D.C., Maryland, Virginia if large segments of the federal workforce would either be eliminated outright or moved out of the area?
Well, it'd be damaging for us for sure, but actually across the country. I think 80% of federal workers are not in the Washington metropolitan area, so this would have a national impact as well. But there's sort of two levels. One is the impact on the work that they do. You know, these are people who've developed expertise and have experience to do these jobs, you know, making sure the drugs are safe, making sure the food we eat is safe, the water we drink, the air we breathe, all of those sorts of things and more. We want to make sure we have people who know what they're doing on that front.
You know, there's an old saying, politics makes strange bedfellows. And, you know, we see that repeated in real life all the time. This past week, the President of the United States and the Democratic mayor of Washington, D.C. came together on something, and that's federal workers returning back into the office. A lot of the workers have complained about this. They say it's unfair. They say they have work agreements. we've got federal buildings downtown that are empty for the most part. Is this a good thing for these federal workers to stop work from home and then get back to the physical office buildings in downtown Washington, D.C.?
Well, I think it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to boost the D.C. economy, which is explicitly what many people are saying, sure, that's helpful. If your goal is to have people do the work for the American people that they need from the federal government, not only does it not necessarily help, but you lose employees potentially who are working remotely. So, for example, I just got a call from someone who was running an agent or department, and I said, well, where are your folks from? They're from all over the country, but they're doing great work. That's why the private sector is doing that as well. Microsoft and other companies have people working. They don't all come into the office every day. In fact, many of them work remotely too, more so than in the federal government, actually.
Your Governor Wes Moore said that he is paying attention to the status of the FBI headquarters, but it's been announced it's going to move to Greenbelt, Maryland. Are you concerned?
Yeah, I never know what Trump's going to do. So we certainly want to make sure that we had a process that Greenbelt was selected on the merits. We hope that it stays that way. Hopefully the president will let it move forward on the merits.
Congressman Glenn Ivey, we appreciate your time. We like the burgundy turtleneck there as well.
Go Commanders.
Thank you very much.